and welcome to the Data Center Podcast, brought to you by BizClick and our sponsors for this series, the Data Center Magazine. Are you ready to plug into the future of digital infrastructure? Well, you've come to the right place, because on the Data Center Podcast, we're exploring a world where connectivity is faster, storage is smarter, and the digital landscape is consistently evolving. Every week, we bring you straight to the source, interviewing the innovators, the engineers, and the brilliant minds building and operating the facilities that power the modern world. If you're curious about how the physical backbone of the internet is actually changing our lives, then you're in the right place. Our guest today has entered the data center space through the built environment, getting an exciting job through a mixture of curiosity, eagerness to learn, and a bit of luck. He now sits at the top table within BCS Consulting, as COO, where they claim to make your data center dreams possible. So let's welcome Chris Coward to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So I've given you a very, very quick bit of background there. You're in the built environment. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you kind of came to be in the data center space?
So I grew up interested in property and houses and the built environment. Clearly, when I was growing up, data centers didn't exist. So I didn't go straight into that industry. But my background was building surveying. I worked for a London property developer, Industrial Sheds, which is similar to data centers. I graduated, qualified, chartered surveyor, and then I went for a job as a surveyor at a company called DBK in the city. Didn't get that job, but they phoned me up and said, "Do you know where Amsterdam is? Do you know what a data center is?" I said, "Well, I know where Amsterdam is, but I don't know what a data center is." So next thing's next, I got a job as a project manager as a data center in Amsterdam. I got a flight, a ticket, and they said, meet this taxi and they'll take you to a data center site.
How exciting.
In Amsterdam. So yeah, that was 2010. So that's how I fell into the data space completely by accident. Looking back, I probably didn't consider the decision at all. But I was young, enthusiastic.
You never do.
And I wanted to do something, and I always wanted to go abroad. And I always thought I needed a different culture, a different environment, and data centers sounded quite exciting. Not that I knew really what it was, so I turned up and started learning a new sort of industry, a new area of expertise.
And what a lucky place to end up, because obviously data centers are now our bread and butter.
So 2010 was before the iPhone. We had Blackberries. We had landlines.
I remember them well.
Well, yeah, so I was completely by accident. I think my whole career, I've made good choices at certain points of time, and looking back, that was an amazing choice. Could never have considered where I got to now back then, but yeah, I don't think you do when you're in your late 20s, early 30s. You don't really think about the future. You think about doing exciting things, and that seemed to be exciting at that point in time.
Absolutely. So what's also exciting is right now, for BCS, it's your 10th anniversary.
Absolutely.
And then for you, it's a chance to step into a COO position. So when you look at yourself running, the decisions at BCS for the next, let's hope, another 10 years.
Yep.
What is so exciting about that journey?
I think the exciting thing is where we've come from. So constantly reflecting on what we've achieved. But you never rest on your laurels, do you? You always want to look forward. And I think I'm at the age now, I've been through probably 3 phases of data center iteration. And now we're coming into the AI phase, which is a completely different ballgame. If you look back on my career, my first data center was probably 50 kilowatts. Carpeted floors, air-cooled, fan belts, things like that. And now we're doing liquid-cooled solutions, 100 kilowatt racks, never mind 100 kilowatt data centers. But what we need to do at BCS, and what I'm trying to do, is maintain the enthusiasm, the curiosity, wanting to learn, wanting to innovate, wanting to do things differently. And that's what the industry is all about. The challenge is we can't move quick enough. And as an industry, I think everyone is suffering from that problem.
So when you entered BCS 9 years ago, obviously the company was so young. And you told me before you were one of 4 people around the table that were, making the decisions. How did you come to be one of those 4 people?
So the data center world is very small and very quite niche. And I was working for another company. Jim and Scott set the business up. I got a phone call from a guy called Jim Hott, and he said, "Come and have a chat with me." And he sat me down in Pret in Grace Church and told me all about how great he was and how great BCS were going to be. So I came out of that meeting and Jim was like, yeah, well, when do you want to start? So I was like, fantastic, sounds great. And again, I was still quite young and I was thinking, yeah, sounds great. I want to go and do that. My job was just finished. My previous project had finished, so I was looking for the next step. I then get a phone call from Jim saying, you need to meet Scott. And Jim and Scott are quite, they play off each other really well, but they're very different personalities. So I was like, coming out thinking I've got a job. And the next thing I know, I had to sit in front of Scott Shearer and I got technical grilling for 1 hour on data centers. And I came out of that sweating, thinking, God, perhaps I'm not got a job. And the next I got offered the job. But it was a baptism of fire, really. I brought a project with me and a client with me, so I was continuing to work with that. But it's going from that corporate environment, phoning someone up and getting a pen delivered, to having to find a pen, having a laptop delivered with fully coordinated, to having a laptop and then having to work out how to use it yourself. Just all the back of house stuff that you get in a corporate environment wasn't there. And it was basically suck it and see and get on with it, really, and deliver. And we've made a big success out of it. But it's through hard work. It's not like we were sat around doing nothing. We were well connected in the industry. We were known for doing a really good job. And if you do a good job, people come back to you.
Absolutely.
And we surrounded ourselves by experts in the industry. And we kind of just let everyone get on with it while we built the framework of the business around them. And over time, we've just gradually grown, improved, introduced apprenticeships, gone regional, gone global, and it's just snowballed from that point 9 years ago.
Wow. So another massive thing for BCS is the people, right? The people piece, a massive thing for you personally.
Yep.
So as you step up to lead BCS, how do you keep that culture, that kind of startup, warm, friendly culture that you had when you've got way more staff, way more money, way more capabilities?
Well, it goes back to the Dunbar theory, doesn't it? Once you get over, you can't have more than 150 relationships. So we got to a point of 150 people and you start losing that personal relationship. I can't know everyone's name. I tried, but you'd start to lose that. So what we've tried to do is create small businesses in a larger structure. So small teams of people working on clients, delivering for that client, and then we can sort of keep the cultural aspect as a larger firm as well. Me, Jim, we spend a lot of time in and around our people, in the office 5 days a week, speaking to our people, speaking right down to our apprentices. Apprentices hate it when I'm in the office because I sit next to them and I challenge them. What does that mean? And they don't know and they have to go away and find it out and come back to me. But it's all about being in and around the people. And the challenge is making sure the lines of communication are clear. It's very easy, me and Jim sat there thinking and creating a vision. But when you start creating the layers of management, it's how that message gets filtered down. And it does filter, and that's the problem. And it's not as clear. And I've got people that the first guy I employed is still with us 8 years later.
Wow.
But he's got probably 2 layers of people between him and me now. So he phones me up and says, well, what's the message? And it's a bit different to what he's been told. So it's ensuring those really clear lines of communication, ensuring that we're really in and around our people. We want to make a difference. Being enthusiastic. After 10 years, some people can get a little bored, can get a bit lackadaisical. But we've got to make sure that we're constantly driving forward and trying to smile, make it fun, enjoy. In board meetings, we put stupid things on them. At the board meeting this month, I did a picture of Jim and he was like doing memes around it, things like that. Just if we can have fun at the top, I know there's a serious nature, we can have fun at the top, that naturally disseminates down to your people. And if you can have fun going to work, it makes it a much better place.
And do you think you sit and you grill the apprentices because you got a firm grilling?
So I don't know. Neil Growcock he's still in the industry. He was my first boss. He was my project director. We lived together because we were in Amsterdam. So he was brutal with me, and that's the way you learn, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree.
He's famous for tearing strips off people, and he tore strips off me many a times. I'm not quite like that. But I think lots of people can go through life without being curious and without asking the questions. And if you ask them the questions, they go away, think about it. How many times, years ago, when I was in Amsterdam, I got a drawing and I said to everyone in the room, what does that mean? And they all looked at me and went, oh, I don't know. And I was like, well, go away, find out what it means. It's an acronym. So I just challenge the apprentices on what they're actually doing, make them think, because they can get locked in especially the QSs, they can get locked in a very minutiate detail. So I'm only measuring cables, so everything else on this drawing doesn't matter. But it does matter because it's all intrinsic and it's all linked. So they need to start thinking outside the box. And they can easily sit there all day and float through the day. But when I go into the office, I'm always sat there on my own. None of them sit around me. It's like
because they know they're going to get.
They know. It's not grilling, but they know I'm going to ask them a difficult question or ask them to do something silly or something like that. But it's trying to keep the humour. I might sit at the top of the business, but I'm still just a big kid at heart, really. But I want to learn. I want to have the experience that I had, and it is challenging them, but you can float through life, or you can really make something of your life. And I want these apprentices to make something of their life. And I've created that atmosphere and I've created that environment for them to succeed.
I'm sure they appreciate it. They will, even if they don't appreciate it at the time, they'll appreciate it eventually.
Yeah.
So another major thing that's changed, obviously, is AI. So while, the software updates essentially overnight, the infrastructure that we have built just can't. So how are you telling your clients that they should be preparing for the future of AI?
The challenge we've got is we're designing for today when we need to be designing for scalability in 5 years' time. The chip makers are driving the market and the constructors, the designers can't keep up. So we really need to find a real fine balance. The challenge you've got is finance and money. There's a little bit more restriction around money at the moment because there's not much of it in the market. There's a restriction on power, and that's ultimately going to drive the demand. The AI guys they're an interesting dynamic on the industry, and I think they've really shook the industry up because they move quickly, they want things quickly, but they want things big. So the challenge is a fine balance, and it's moving away from being a cost and risk based solution. They want low risk, low cost. These guys want it as quick as possible. They'll pay a premium if they can get it quicker. And the question always is, what can they get? So it's advising them around the risk profiles. The dynamics of the industry are going to change absolutely with these AI guys because they're more tech driven and they want to buy chips. They don't want to build buildings, and ultimately they're the end customer of the building. So it's finding the right dynamic and changing the way we work as an industry. We've always just had a funder, a developer, someone leases it. That dynamic is going to change over the next 5 years, and it's working with the market, working with the different clients coming into market to really improve on the RFS dates, get things built sooner, get things built more efficiently, and ultimately do more with less.
So previously, you told me on a previous call that we could look ahead, 3 to 5 years, and now it's 6 months. So honestly, when you're having those conversations, how do you predict the unpredictable here?
We've got to smile. No, ultimately, the 6 month thing I say in jest, we kind of know where we're going as an industry. Once leases are signed, we get 14 to 18 months to build it. It's how we can build it in that period as efficiently, as quickly as possible. But we need to be realistic in our expectations. And when we're advising clients, we need to really outline what the delivery risks are, preempt what the risks are, use data as a tool to make the decisions realistic. And don't make the same mistake twice. But these facilities are growing bigger. I think one thing, they're growing bigger in power, but not bigger in size. If I look back to when I started, the size footprint of the data center is probably the same size, but the power is 100 times more. So the buildings haven't got any smaller. It's just getting the power to them. But ultimately, the demand is there. The power is there, but it's getting the power and demand to meet, getting the location sorted, getting the finance in place. I think the finance is a little bit more risk adverse at the moment. They've been a little bit cautious over where they're making their investments. If you get a lease with a Microsoft or a Google, a much stronger covenant. If you go to an AI company that's been around for a few years, they've got a lot of money, but they've got a lot less of a covenant behind them. So it's finding that fine balance between the two.
In a world driven by AI, cloud computing, and massive scale, the digital infrastructure industry never stops moving. But are you keeping pace? Stay ahead of the curve with Data Center Magazine, your ultimate global hub for data center insights. From sustainability and cooling innovations to edge computing and cybersecurity, we bring you the exclusive interviews with the industry's giants, deep dive the global community shaping the digital future. Visit datacentermagazine.com today to never miss an update. That's datacentermagazine.com. So another major challenge then for your clients, because you advise across the globe, is different rules and regulations depending on their location. So how do you manage the client expectations when they realize that the rules are completely different wherever you're looking?
That's always been the biggest challenge. One size does not fit all. We've learned that the hard way on a number of occasions. But it's all about embedding yourself in the localization, bringing in the experience locally. And if you turn up in Germany and you're a Brit, you bring in a German to meet with the Americans and the British, and you work together to come up with a solution. The localization is key. You will fail on a project if you don't comply with the rules that are put in place and understand it from the outset. What we do, we bring in a local team. We have over 30 languages in our business. I think that's about 20 nationalities across the business. So when we go to initial kickoff meetings with clients, we tend to bring someone with the local language skills, the local knowledge. We've delivered projects across 60 countries. So it's bringing those people to the meetings, being very empathetic with the locals. You don't go in there being bold and boisterous. Companies have failed over the time. So we be very empathetic with the locals, understand what their needs and wants are, and then try and piece that together to come to a solution that meets the client's needs as well as the local market.
Well, this is another thing, making that relationship with the community really good. So how do you navigate, people who say, I'm absolutely not having a data center in my village?
We've done a number of schemes. So the community engagement used to be, if you do a 5-page summary report, community engagement, the last paragraph on page 5, you need to do community engagement. Mm-hmm. Now it's the opening gambit on every report. Get the community on side, and that will ease the burden on your delivery. What we do is we start the community engagement early. If you're looking at a piece of land and it's got housing estate around it, if the houses are privately owned, for example, you're going to get a lot more community pushback. If they're all rented, it's going to be much more simpler. So we do little studies around that. What we also do is early engagement with the community. We've had projects where we bring them to site, we show them what's going on, and ultimately ask them, what would you like out of this? And they tend to be very minutiae details, but it makes a huge difference to their lives. We've had them advise us on their traffic plans. Don't drive a truck through this village because it will ruin our village. So we just tell the trucks to come a different way. Yeah. Can you sponsor our local football team? Buy them some shirts, £5,000. Can you build a hall for us? £100,000. We're talking billions of dollars here, and they're asking for these. And these small items of willing gestures at the start makes a huge difference. We had a lady said, can you just tarmac this piece of road because it'll help her with a shopping trolley? And she's been a big supporter of the data centre ever since. She's got no idea what goes on in there. Probably doesn't really care, but that made a massive impact on her life because of the potholes, and she could push her shopping across it. So it's really getting that engagement early. Ultimately, people are naturally nosy. So if you turn up and you put 6-foot high timber fencing, you're closing the community off rather than bringing them in. Mm-hmm. So one thing we do is we get that engagement early, invite them into site, just get them engaged with what's going on. And while we're building it, get them engaged as well. Show them what's going on. Be open and transparent with them. And as an industry, we all need to do that. We're all signed NDAs. We're all very secretive. And it's probably been one of the industry's downfall over the past 10 years. And now we're in a sort of a stage of coming out of that secrecy, opening up. In Germany, they have an open data center day where all the companies open up the data centers and they invite locals in and they show them around live facilities. Yeah. And it's just these little things that make a huge difference.
Absolutely. I like the idea of lowering the fences and kind of being the good neighbour.
People are nosy.
Yeah.
They've got no idea what's going on, but they know something's going on. And if they can see it, it makes them much happier.
Do you ever advise on sort of green projects? So, the waste heat from the data centres going into public swimming pools or beyond just the community angle?
Well, the swimming pool is ideal for the temperature heat. There's a scheme I'm working on at the moment, and what I'm trying to do is build a community to build. So where the data centre is, there is nothing. So we've got to build a community to build the data center. And then we're going to use that community to build a community for the operation of the data center. So in summary, that is building a block of flats for the 2,000 or 4,000 people we need to build it.
Wow.
Get it built, and then we have a block of flats and a community for the people to move into. Locals, what they'll get is free hot water, free electricity, and they can build a community. There's jobs from the data center. So that is the future. We need to go back to the Industrial Revolution when you built a paper mill, you built your houses around it, everyone lived there, everyone worked in the mill, and that was the community, and that's how people lived. And data centers can really recreate that Industrial Revolution of the future. And there's huge plots of land, mainly outside of Europe, that we're trying to push these schemes and get government back in. If people can get something out of it, communities will be built over the next years.
And do you see the need for that rapidly increasing? I mean, it sounds ideal. I would love free hot water, free heat.
Well, yeah, but it sounds ideal, but the challenge you've got in Europe is it's low-grade heat, and the data centers tend to be a long way from where you want the hot water to be. If you can make the data center central to the community, it's a really easy win-win situation. You can put a swimming pool in there, and you can really make the data center about the community. Retrofitting is really impossible. You end up with hot water, but by the time you've transferred it a few hundred meters to a block of flats, it's cold water. It doesn't work. If you're ploughing water at 24 degrees through your heating system, you're going to be very, very cold. So it's very difficult to retrofit, but we need to be forward thinking as an industry. We need to think of it as this is an infrastructure, a lifestyle, a community, rather than a big grey box that we don't want anyone to know anything about.
Absolutely. So let's go back to that people focus. So once we've built, the perfect data center, we still need to staff it. And there's a lack of people wanting to enter the data center space, I would say.
Yep.
So what is the PR piece behind that to get people to kind of see it as a viable job opportunity?
This is twofold. So you've got the actual operation of the data center, but you've got the ecosystem around it. But if you're in a room of 18-year-olds and they all want to be the next Google technician, all you got to say to them is, without the data center, those technicians don't exist. It's as simple as that. We create those jobs for them. But what we've got to do, we've got to get people excited about construction. I think the people have fallen out of love with construction. They see it as quite a scary, risky job. Obviously, it's got high suicide rates, highest number of deaths. So it's changing that mindset, getting people excited about digital infrastructure. Ultimately, you're creating nations, you're creating the future of the country. And without that, the country won't exist. I always say we should turn everything off for 10 minutes and see what happens. The world would end. So if someone can't get excited about that, then I think we've got a real serious problem as a country and as people. But I always say to my daughter, would you rather have no light or data? And they would much rather have the phones rather than the light on, wouldn't they? So data is just as important as power these days. So it's getting people really excited about the industry. And people, the key is people see it as an energy sustainability issue. It's changing that mindset. I think the younger generation are quite socially conscious, but I think they're quite socially naive because they don't really understand what the cloud is, what their impact of using their phone actually is. They just see the data center as this big energy burning building that doesn't give them any benefit.
So they almost see that as the evil, and they're not doing the bad.
They're not involved.
They're not involved
They're
at
not
all.
involved, but they're creating the evil.
Yeah, the need is creating the evil. So those skills then that you're looking for, because you don't necessarily need someone who knows about data centers.
No.
What is the top skill that you're looking for when you're looking at data center, people to work in data centers?
Well, I can train anybody at the end of the day. I think the challenge we've got is we've got a silver tsunami coming. We've got all we're into our 4th generation of data centers, and the people that set the industry up 20 years ago are leaving. They've earned their money and it's time to move on. So first of all, we need to retain them to transfer that knowledge. But we always employ the personality. We can train the skill. We need to get the people with the right mindset, people that want to turn up on time, people that can get themselves dressed, put a high vis on, people that are just spatially aware of themselves. I think a lot of people rely on others to get through life. I was speaking to a guy earlier. So I went past the site at Grace Church, right? And for a transit van to pull out of the site onto the road, there were 6 people in high vis to get one transit van onto a road. And we moan we've got a skill shortage, but we're using 6 people to get a van onto a road. If I'm a transit van driver, I should be able to drive out onto a road. And he wasn't even reversing. All by himself. Maybe one person, but there was 6 people there. And that's just sort of how the world has come. It's someone else's problem, yeah? I might be the banksman, but then I need a senior banksman to monitor the banksman. And then I need a supervisor to monitor the banksman's senior banksman. So people just need to take a lot more responsibility. And you see that with the youth of today. Someone else will work. Someone else will do that. So it's really changing the mindset, getting people excited about it. At BCS, we've got an apprenticeship program. So we're on to our 8th year of that. So we've had 16 people through that program. We're also retraining pro athletes. So a lot of pro sports stars come out of the Olympic cycle, don't know what to do next. They get injuries, so they don't get the careers off them running. But naturally, sports people are well-tuned. They work really hard.
Yeah.
They want to learn. And they're coming to an end of a really intense career, and they're looking for something else. So we've brought 6 of those individuals into the business. What that's done is really elevated our current apprentices, because they're sat next to a former pro footballer. He was playing football with Kobe Mainoo 2 years ago. They're sat next to Will Edwards, who was playing for Harlequins last year. They're sat next to people that have been to the Olympics. And they're sitting there sort of, maybe not in awe, but these guys they'd probably do an apprenticeship in 6 months, where it takes 5 years. They want to get to the top quickly. That's really, the industry just needs to do a lot more of these initiatives. They look at like ex-military people, sports people, and getting those transferable skills, but it's all around the personality. You can train the skill. Being a project manager is not hard. I made a career out of it. It's about managing people, being personable, being really focused, understanding what the client wants, and driving the solution towards the end goal. It's not that technical, and you pick things up as you go. So if you've got the right mindset, the rest will fall into place.
So how do you think we instill that mindset in the younger generation, in the youth?
Well, that's $1 million question, isn't it? Really trying to get people excited about it. It's an educational piece from my perspective. My daughter is 17, so she's at that stage now. And what I'm seeing with the next generation is the job funds the life, so it doesn't matter what the job is. I went into construction because I love buildings, but I think the youth go into construction because it pays, and then that'll pay for my season ticket, or that'll pay for my beer, or that'll pay for my daughter's a horse rider, so I'll get a job doing this because it'll pay for my horse, not because I love my job and I want to build a career. So it's that mindset of the next generation. But if we can get them excited about IT and understand what the actual cloud is, try and get them excited about construction, get them excited about wanting to build something new. I always get excited about seeing stuff go up, multi-story buildings, just every day being on site, seeing things change. I don't think the next generation really care. And I don't know how we're going to change that, because in schools they've introduced the built environment as an A-level. That didn't exist when I was at school.
Me either.
And that's great. But it's about the excitement piece, getting their real understanding. It's transferring what goes on in their phone into their mind. I think, we need to build that to do this.
So do we just need a really good comm strategy and some really good TikToks?
Life goes through TikTok, doesn't it? No, it does, doesn't it? I don't know. I'm not a social. I know what they do with your data, so I don't want to get involved. But life is through TikTok, doesn't it? You want a restaurant, you go to TikTok. You want a holiday, you go to TikTok. So we need to use AI. We need to use the tools that we've got. We need to use data centers to create this importance and urgency to make sure we secure the future of the country.
So let's talk about the future of the country then. So if we're looking forward, how do we, flip that script from the data center being the monster, the energy monster that we talked about, to actually being the protector of the future?
So I move away from the word data centers. This is about power and infrastructure. If we can secure the power, that'll secure the grid. It's not about racks. It's not about data. If we secure the future of the country, it'll be through the power generation, making sure we've got sufficient renewables to meet the demand. And once we've secured that, the customers will come. If we don't do it, the AI train is on the track, yeah? If we don't get on it and run with it, other countries will, and we'll be left behind. And we'll be left with a nation that's struggling. Well, firstly, we'll never catch up because the train is moving. Every day that you miss the train or you get off the train, you're losing a week. So the train is moving at 100 miles an hour. So you've got to make sure you're on the train. You've got to make sure you've got a vision for the next 25 years. You've got to be able to deliver that power. You've got to have a vision to get the power to where you want it to be. And that will ultimately encourage data to come to the country. And that will hopefully solve the next 20 to 35 years and keep us relevant in the world. If we don't do it, Africa will do it, the Middle East will do it, APAC will do it, and if we don't, we'll just get left well behind.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chris.
Not a problem.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you very much.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Data Center podcast. Thanks for joining us as we analyze and unpack the complex world of digital infrastructure. We'll be back next week to help you build bigger, run cooler, and maybe even achieve that net zero carbon goal. Until then, keep those racks full and your bandwidth high. See you next time.